Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside my lovely co-pilot. Good to have you back, Dom C. Dom, how you doing tonight?
Oh, Ryan, just peachy, pal. You?
Yeah, I'm wonderful. Everything's peachy keen in Jets land over here. Missed you last
It's
week.
awful.
You got a
Yeah,
really
man.
nice shirt on over there. I'll say that much.
I do. Can't say. Oh, hey, how about that? Wasn't planned, folks. Wasn't
Look,
planned.
did not plan that whatsoever.
Wasn't planned. But yeah, man. Battling a little something going around my house. Just wasn't feeling it last week, and man, I tell you, mentally, I'm not feeling it this week either. Not feeling. Not. It's hard to talk about this team. It's hard to comprehend that we're back in this position again. It's hard, even for me, to come to the grips that it's draft season. It's not even Halloween yet.
Yeah, it's wild to think that we have not made it to November and our playoff shot's gone. Like, regardless of what happened, the Jets would have to go 9-1. That's against 2 games against Miami, 1 against Buffalo, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Texans this week. Like, it's just so far-fetched. I don't know what the percentage chance obviously is, but like to lose games in the way you did. I don't know if you saw the stat. It was like of 751 games or of 750 games where a team, scored 20 points or had X amount of like time of possession and like all this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah. No turnovers, held the other team to under 250 yards.
Yep. Only the Jets have come away with a loss. And obviously, Zuerlein missing 4 points worth of kicks was the difference. Lots of issues besides just that. But man, Zuerlein, after being so clutch last year, just could not put it together this season, and ultimately will cost the Jets a shot at a playoff opportunity with a roster that I think most of us would consider one of the better on paper talent rosters that we've ever seen. It just doesn't seem they can be a team.
Right. It is. I mean, listen, there's a lot of underlying issues, and it is not just Greg the Leg's fault. Mm-hmm. However, you can justifiably say that his not even poor performance, his lack thereof performance has really cost us 4 games, right? Mm-hmm. Denver, Buffalo, Minnesota, and now, New England. Mm-hmm. And we're singing a whole different tune at what 6 and what are we 2 and what 5?
We're 2 and 6 right now.
2 and 6, so we're singing a whole different tune at 6 and 2.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Holy jeez, Louise!
There's only so many excuses we could give. Like honestly, the Broncos game, the 50-yarder, in the rain, I can forgive that one. Being a former kicker, I can understand not having 100% accuracy from that particular point. And when you have first and goal on the 1, that's when that game probably should have been won. So I agree with you on the overall premise, but man, I did not think Zuerlein would just turn into a pumpkin. Kickers kind of do that, right? Like Mike Vanderjagt was automatic for years. And then he points over to the sideline on a playoff game-winning kick, misses the kick, never kicks the same again. Just immediately bad.
And the sad part is, right, is it comes after the year that we sign him to a 2-year, almost fully guaranteed deal.
Mm-hmm.
So him proverbially shitting the bed is going to now cost us almost $5 million in dead cap space next year if they choose to move on from him.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is maybe you hold him for the rest of this year because the season's already done. And as we've seen as proof positive with Zuerlein missing kicks, teams that have bad kickers tend to lose some of those close games more consistently. And in the years that you're trying to tank for draft picks, I didn't mind not really having a kicker for that exact reason. And I mean, I still want to win as many games as possible. Like, I don't really want to have the 5th overall pick. We're sitting at the 4th overall pick right now. Big game coming up with the Patriots versus the Titans that hold picks 2 and 3 in front of us. It's like, weirdly, I don't know, impactful maybe. I would imagine this team's going to turn it around and not be top 5 pick, conversation. But man, dude, I I don't know. I'm at a loss.
Yeah, as we were saying, like I tend to be, I tend to fancy myself a very positive and more optimistic, glass half full kind of guy, especially in terms of the Jets. And man, I got nothing. I got nothing. There's not really anything right now that you can hang your hat on and feel confident or comfortable with. Not the immediate, not what's going on in the immediate, and not what's kind of set up for the short term and long term future on many different levels, not just at personnel levels. You know,
no, it's GM, head coach, the quarterback situation, the rest of our star players that are coming up for contracts that have already been speculated in trades and teams wanting to pay them big dollars, and you know, maybe they try to force their ways out. There's a lot of, I don't know where they go. Like there's going to be some options, but man, I don't like it.
Yeah. Half of me thinks that, you know, unfortunately, and this is, I mean that when I say that, like sadly, like there's something inherent in me that thinks that they might run this thing back. You know, they might give Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams one last, you know, lick of the ice cream cone, if you will, and try to piecemeal and fill some of the other holes. And man, that's that old definition of insanity, right? You know,
honestly, I'm looking at like how things could be handled and what sort of goes around. I do have a poll question in the chat, so this kind of harkens back to what we're currently talking about. It's time to. And you can vote for blow it up before the trade deadline. Trade deadline is November 5th. So we obviously have our Texans game and a few days after that to actually kind of helps us figure out if we want to trade pieces off. Trade in the offseason with a new staff. Reload with a new staff plus run it back. Those are the three options in the poll. I would say what you just said, let the Jets run it back, or you think they might run it back with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and try to get one more lick of the ice cream. That's the route I do think they're going to go. I don't think Woody Johnson.
I think that's, yeah.
I don't think Woody Johnson is going to cut Aaron Rodgers. And I think Aaron Rodgers, unless he decides, hey, I'm done, I think he's going to play next year. I think they got Devontae here finally. There's still enough good young pieces around. You get Jermaine Johnson back next year. You get your draft picks. Try and reload if you want to do it that way. Maybe there's an offensive-minded coach or a stable veteran coach out there that wants to take a crack at this. It just I don't know if that's the right move.
Yeah,
or not.
And I agree with you. I think that, you know, if I had to put my money on one way or another, I think that's the way I would lean. It's not what I would do. I mean, let's just think about this real quick. And listen, we've all been talking about this for, you know, a day and a half now. And, you know, you have a show after this and a show tomorrow and this, that, and the other thing. So you're going to be talking about it for four more days. Like, what are you doing? How are you getting a head coach in here to say, hey, GM, head coach, come on in. Look, the water's pretty. You know, Woody Johnson is, you know, sticking his head in and medals at the wrong time. Like, you got that. You got a 42-year-old quarterback who demands the respect of the room almost to a fault at times. You know, you have the third oldest roster in the NFL. But hey, you know, like, you're a great offensive mind. Why don't you come take on a quarterback that's not going to give a shit what you have to say, and he's going to play the way he wants to play? You know, that just doesn't work. It just won't work. The best case
that's
scenario,
not the spin. Like, you wouldn't be the guy I'd be putting forward to say, "Hey, go pitch this job to a coach."
I'm speaking.
That's not how I would spin that.
I'm speaking it realistically from a high level. From a high level, like realistically, like that's exactly what's going to happen. No coach or GM combination worth his weight in salt it's going to want to step into this thing. Now, will they get a head coach? Sure. You know, a couple years ago, Houston had had a head coach. They took their wide receivers coach and promoted him. And, you know, that was just the stopgap until they could get things going the way they wanted to go. And that's exactly what this would be. So, you know, who are you going to promote? Is it going to be Ron Middleton? You know, you're going to let Ulbrich run it back for a full season? You know, you're not going to get much. You're not going to get, not to say that those two guys are, you know, worthy candidates of any sort, but you're not going to get much better than them. You know what I mean?
Well, so here's the conundrum we find ourselves in, right? Like, if we're not going to attract a top talent, do you consider giving Douglas an extension to let him find a new quarterback, a new head coach, because maybe we trust him more than, the field? Or do you try to go with what will probably be a subpar option, or maybe I shouldn't say subpar, but would be in the vein of like, hey, are we okay with option 4 or 5 on the list of potential available GMs and head coaches? Or do you want Douglas for an additional, what would probably have to be 3 or 4 years? He's not going to sign a 1-year extension contract. He's going to be able to leave and go wherever he wants.
Yeah.
So like in my mind, from a head coach perspective, I want either Ben Johnson, who is not going to be, a realistic option because he can go anywhere else he wants. Vrabel or Stefanski would be the other two. More of a veteran head coach that's dealt with turmoil that might find themselves out of a job. That would be kind of where I lean, but I don't know if they would want this.
So here's my thing. First off, do we even know if Joe Douglas is still employed here? Have you heard?
He may not have been employed since before as soon as the Rodgers trade happened. I said it like Woody forced that trade to happen before the draft, and I think that was the beginning of the end for Joe Douglas. Like Joe Douglas, I'm not sure he made another move beyond that point.
Yeah, listen, man, I'm not sure what's going on with him, but it has been completely radio silent. Woody's been forward facing to the cameras and the media. Now, I know Joe Douglas doesn't have to get in front and say anything. That's not the case, but you haven't really heard much from him. Not with the Devontae trade, not with the Reddick signing and the negotiations, not with any of this. Did we hear anything
from him after Cook last year? Cook was in the preseason, but usually we don't hear anything from Douglas until after the season.
No, absolutely not. I'm saying not in regards of getting to the podium, but he hasn't even been bantered about it all. Woody's talking about we, not me and Joe Douglas, or not Joe Douglas. You haven't heard Ulbrich bring up Joe Douglas at all.
No,
it's
the closest
very,
thing
very
we've
peculiar.
heard was this roster is the talented that it's been since I've been here, which could still mean Woody Johnson feels he has assembled a beautiful roster because he has been pulling the strings.
And he's not wrong. He's not wrong that this roster 1 to 53 is the best that we've had probably since 2010. But it's not a team, and they have not been coached well, and they are still undisciplined, and they're still unaccountable to anything. So the whole thing is a mess. I really, really don't think that you're going to be able to bring in anyone worth their weight in salt if Aaron Rodgers is still here. The only and best option that we have is that the body breaks down and he decides to retire, because he does have a clause in his contract, which allows us to break it up over multiple years. So
2 years. He's got a $35 million bonus coming up that he would have to agree not to accept until after June 1st. So then the Jets can officially retire him June 1st. That money gets split over this year and next year.
There's a clause in his contract. He gets it over 3 years.
So he's going to get the $35 million, because I know it's a $35 million bonus that gets spread over the next 3 years.
It'll end up being like $14 million over 3 years, whatever that. I don't know the numbers, but of what he's due or what. But if he does retire and it's done after June 1st, it'll be a $14 million hit for 3 consecutive years.
I don't think that can work like that. I think it has to accelerate. It has to be split like between this year and next year. That's what the June 1st deadline is.
I was on a podcast or a space this morning. They were one of these cap guys was on there, and he was talking about that there's a unique clause in his deal that allows that to happen. So I digress. Maybe it's wrong, but it's that to me that's the best case scenario. But what happens then? And why I think it's more likely that we run this thing back, or that Woody runs this thing back. If Rodgers retires, you got to assume they're going to move on from Davante Adams, right? And you just literally gave away, a high 3rd round pick for half a season of football. Like I just don't see it. All the pieces line up to me. That smells trouble, unless somebody just grows a set and literally chops off all the legs, makes, is the big boy in the room, puts their big boy panties on, and makes decisions. And they move on from Rodgers, regardless if he wants to or not. They start making they start making cuts, and they start getting the roster in order for a new GM and head coach to build as they will. It'll suck year one. We're going to be like Denver and have a huge cap hit, just like they're carrying over for Russell Wilson now. Um, and you'll find out if this new GM head coach tandem is the right one really quick, because if they can stay somewhat competitive, having a big disadvantage in the salary cap, then you got a good future to look for. But it's phenomenal to me. It's absolutely mind-boggling that we're in the scenario yet again.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would prefer them to run it back and just see if new energy in the room could revitalize it. We have so many good young players. To just up and trade them all this offseason would be kind of a gut punch. I'd rather have to make that decision November of next year. Like, if it doesn't work out and it's clearly all falling apart, I don't mind taking the lumps for 2025 and then having the implosion of cap in 2026 at this point. I feel like just upending it now to get rid of players that are showing a lot of promise long term.
Let's talk about those players that you're talking about. Like, because when I say
one second, I feel like that's a really good conversation point that I do want to dig into. 𝐂𝐻 dropped in a super chat. Appreciate it, dude. Says Robbie Sabo made a good point. We won everyone in camp, where game planning and coaching adjustments aren't a thing. Not the whole problem, though. I don't know if they won us over in camp. I mean, they won us over last year throughout, from the trade through camp, and then this offseason through camp. But we didn't see them play like at all. You saw little clips from the green and white scrimmage, and that's about it. So I don't know if they won us over in camp as much as we won ourselves over on the big names and the talent of those players in the past. I don't know. I thought there was a lot of talent here that would have a bad year from Rodgers should have been a good year for the Jets, and the wheels just came off.
Yeah, and listen, when you look at it statistically, right?
Mm-hmm.
He might have a decent, he might have a pretty good year. What's he on pace for? 4,000 yards plus, 28 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, and 14 picks or something like that. We would die for that, but the ends aren't justifying the means, because everything else is just systematically broken. It's systematically broken. So
let's get into that conversation where I think you were headed with this. Like, go on.
Yeah.
And start
we're talking about the scenario that I think we should do, but I don't think will happen, which is, get rid of them all, like fire sale, like somebody's going to be the big boy in the room, and we're going to start over. And, Ryan Delaney and Dom Kuchar, you're our head coach GM combo. So you're going to get to build this thing as you want. All right. So you talk about players that are going to have to go. Okay. So forget about the guys on their last year of the contracts, right? You would assume most of them will be gone. The bigger money, older guys, the DJ Reeds, the Tyler Conklins of the world, they'd be gone, right?
Do we say that, like, I mean, they're obviously gone, but did we make any trades in the next 2 weeks? Like, do you think Douglas makes any trades, or Woody or whatever, like a DJ Reed, like a Tyler Conklin? Like,
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. And here's why. It's the Aaron Rodgers factor, right? Yep. You're not going to have a team with a guy who's brought in to be the hero. Remember, we talked about small window, 1 year window, or all in mentality. You're not going to do that with a guy like Aaron Rodgers on your team. If Aaron Rodgers was hurt and Tyrod was in, yeah, I could start seeing that. But you're not gonna start. Hang on 1 second. Oh, face mask declined the touchdown.
I just saw.
Yeah, so you're not gonna start picking pieces away. You're not gonna get rid of arguably your best defensive back and on these other, important pieces. And still ask Rodgers to roll out. Rodgers and Devontae, who you just traded for, to roll out and say, hey, trust the process. We're getting rid of everyone else, but You know, you're still our guys. We got this next year. That's just not happening. You know what I mean? So I don't think. Listen, could there be a trade? Sure. You know, I think Mike Williams is still, you know, a name that could be, you know, gone, but he's not a big important piece of this offense. But as for the DJ Reeds and the Conklins, no, I think they're here the rest of the season. I do. This isn't Madden. You know, like this isn't Madden. I know a lot of people like to play have that idea and play Madden. Get what you can, go get your draft capital, but it doesn't work like that. You know, you still have guys on the team that you got to, you know, kind of hone in on and really appease. You know what I mean? And one of them just happens to be the strongest personality, who might just have the strongest voice in the room, or at least in Woody Johnson's ear. You know what I mean?
Sure. Now, you were getting towards players that are not on one-year deals. So we're talking Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Quinnen Williams, Quincy Williams. Like, where does your head kind of go with these players?
My head goes like this. So we talked about, you know, like I wouldn't expect Reddick to be back. I wouldn't expect DJ Reed to be back. I wouldn't expect Conklin to be back. Those are the bigger name guys in the last year of their deals, right? So I would expect those guys to move. They'd move on from those guys. Then you have some of your younger guys in the last year of their deals, the Sherwoods, the Eccles of the world. Like you can make arguments that they can be, you know, they can be guys that are brought back. Oh, I'm in that first group also, like Chuck Clark, you know, like the older veteran types, like they're gonzo.
Where do you fall on like Morgan Moses? I kind of would like to see him come back on a smaller deal. I don't know if it's necessarily in his wheelhouse to want to do that, but like I'd like to retain him.
Yeah, I think that, again, if you're running it back with Rodgers and some of the older, like that's a, you know, you might be able to, you know, extend or give him a 1-year deal, you know, just to, you know, stabilize the right tackle spot. You figure you got Olu on the left tackle. That's one less hole that you have to fill, you know, because the problem of all these 1-year contracts, I think the Jets are going to have, I think they have 19 contracts come, you know, that are expiring this year. They're going to have a lot of holes to fill, not only starters, but depth pieces as well. That being said, so Morgan Moses, I think if the Jets run it back with Rodgers, I think he could be part of the equation. If they don't, I think they just move on, and you either see what you got in a guy like Carter Warren, or you go draft a guy to compete with Carter Warren, or bring in, you know, if the cap situation's bad, you bring in somebody really cheap, and, you know, you just get through 2025. Sad to say. But yeah, so I think some of the younger guys, the Sherwoods and the Eccles of the world, I think they could be considered pieces important enough to re-sign. I think I think there's a strong possibility that both Quincy Williams and Sauce Gardner are going to be looking for new deals. I think you're looking at holdout situations with those two guys.
Do you think you would give a contract to Sauce if he holds out after year 3, given how this year's gone?
You know, that's a real polarizing topic. You know, he's arguably still one of the best players at his position. He is not having year 3 has not been nearly as good as year 1 and 2. There's a lot of, there's a lot of bad play by and some bad effort by his part. I don't know if I'm ready to set the market on him going into year 3. It's been pretty well known that he's going to be looking for that extension. So maybe it's just a matter of hey, you gotta come back and you gotta show us that you're back to the Sauce Gardner the Pro Bowl Sauce Gardner, not this other guy that whether it's injuries or whatnot or just bad play has kind of regressed to. So you got that, and then Quincy Williams is grossly underpaid for his position. He'll be entering the last year of his contract. For me, I absolutely expect him to hold out if he's not paid. His brother did it. And listen, he's going to be 29 years old, going to be, you're not going to, if this is a rebuild, that might be a guy you move on from. I don't think he's part of the future. I know he's been great for us, and he was great for us last year and he was Pro Bowler, but I just don't think if you're talking full rebuild mold, I don't think Quincy Williams, I don't think an off-ball linebacker, making 12, 13, $15 million, whatever it would cost to keep him is part of the equation.
I feel like a lot of these discussions have to hinge on Rodgers coming back or not. If he doesn't come back, fire sale. Move on from Quincy, move on from, whatever younger players that you think may not be a fit. I think the better move, though, is to hold on to players like Quincy right now. And then even if you get a new GM in, you say, hey, look, I want to give you, everyone wants a big contract. Sauce, play out this year. Garrett, play out this year. Let's have a great season. Let's reset the market at that point. And then you kind of, like, maybe you throw in some type of incentive, like, hey, you play to the top level caliber of your play. You're going to hit those marks that you wanted to hit anyway. But before you get a brand new contract, I'm the new GM in here. I do want to see, that this is a fit with a new coaching staff and everything like that.
And I think that's going to play important. Listen, I'm not here telling you that we should trade Sauce Gardner, but I am here saying that his value probably isn't going to get any higher.
And it definitely does not, like, as far as $25 million a year go, which is probably what he's going to be looking at. I don't know. I want to see him in a new defense to see how he performs, because I think he was underutilized in the sense that we kept him to one side of the field. And if there's a new defense that comes in, I think he's talented enough to play any different kind of defense. If you're offered 2 first-round picks for him, I think it'd be foolish not to at least give it some consideration, depending on where you're at in your draft process and what you're planning on doing. Like, Rodgers hangs it up. You want to do right by Sauce by letting him go wherever, is most beneficial for him, try to reset the team. I would think Garrett probably falls into that same conversation at that point.
I think you can make an argument. I mean, I think the argument will be made on whoever the GM and head coach combo that comes in. If you bring in an offensive mind like we want, he might want to, do what it takes to keep Garrett Wilson and be willing to move on from Sauce or vice versa. You know what I mean? You bring in, I'm just using a name. You bring in Aaron Glenn, he might, that's a great pass. He might want to see, Sauce Gardner here being the focal point of his defense and, say, listen, we'll just, we'll figure out the offense. We'll grind it. We won't spend the capital there. I'm just making it up like Aaron Glenn. I'm not saying he's it's the only defense coordinator that came to mind. But I tell you one guy I think that you move on from, and it's a shame because the market's probably never going to be lower on him is AVT. AVT is going to be playing next year at $13.4 million or $15.4 million. That's the fifth year deal.
Would you consider, like, if he was willing to, I mean, he's been injured, do you think he would sign a moderate extension, like a 3-4 year deal at like, money?
What's money?
Like, I don't know. Let's see what,
10 million?
Let me, I'll tell you in 1 second. Let's see.
Yeah.
Positions. Look at left guards and right guards. So 10 million would be about 10th highest paid left guard, and right guard is about the same. So yeah, let's say he was willing to do like the Brandon Scherf deal or something like that. 10 million average a year, or like
4 years, 40 million, 20 of it guaranteed.
Yeah, something like that.
Listen, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. It's a big discussion. You either got to extend him so that you get relief immediately. You know what I mean?
Sure. We're going to have about $80 million in cap space because Devontae is hitting us for 36 right now, and that's not going to happen whether he's on the team or not. It's not going to cost us that much.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, he's one of the biggest question marks. Because I could justify either way. He just doesn't stay healthy. So you got AVT. You're going to have to make some decisions, soon in Breece Hall, right? To me, I'm not, and I said this well from the get-go. I haven't, before this year even started, that I wouldn't re-sign Breece Hall long-term. I just don't think you re-sign a running back. And then again, his play has been a little bit down as well. Now, are you ready to turn it over to Braden Allen? Is Braylon Allen a full-time, RB1 in your 3 down back? I don't know. You know what I mean? But is that a position where you just say, okay, listen, we're just gonna, we're not gonna expend a lot of money and we're just gonna keep churning it like that? Yeah, if that's the case, maybe you can get something for Breece. Like in the pecking order, I think AVT for me is the first to go, and then Breece Hall, and then Sauce. But I'd probably lean to keep Sauce, and I would do whatever it takes to keep Garrett. I don't think he's up yet. I don't think you have to pay him now. Even though he might be eligible, he hasn't really earned that. I think you make him play on year 4 and then extend him. But again, of all these guys, he might be the one that's the least satisfied and the one looking to get out quickest.
You say Garrett or Breece for that?
Garrett.
Yeah, it's just a body language thing for me. I know Bean and Matt always get on me for this, but I don't feel like Garrett wants to be here through a rebuild. Like, to me, it's play with Aaron another year or get me out of here. I just don't see any other sort of route with him. He's so talented, and I feel like he's probably the best wide receiver that we've seen as a Jet from like a talent perspective.
He might be the most talented offensive player that we've seen as a Jet, right? Really? Like, I mean, he's, even though production wise, it's easy to say Curtis Martin was the best. Garrett is he's definitely the most talented receiver that we've seen here in a long time. Maybe our entire lives, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I think that holds true. As far as Breece goes, I'm kind of hit or miss on him right now. I would probably roll into next year and say, hey, you know what? If you want to hold out, that's fine. But like,
we got Braylon, we got
Braylon, we're good. I don't think it's worth trading him right now unless you can get something that would like a McCaffrey package where you get like a 2, 3, 4, like whatever that crazy deal was, which I don't think Breece has justified. At least to this point, this has been like a rough season all the way around. Like Sauce's value has probably dropped. Garrett's value has probably dropped.
Listen, you talked about 2 1s. I don't know if you get. Well, I shouldn't say that. You'll get a 1. I think you can get a 1 and a 3 for Sauce.
I agree. I think.
And
so.
I'm not gonna listen. And again, I'm not looking to push him out the door. But if that's your baseline, if somebody's gonna offer you more, you have to listen, especially if you're in full rebuild mode, right?
I think Garrett probably gives you the same return, a first and a third as well. That's probably like all you're looking at.
I think he'll net you a little bit more. Net you a little bit more. Yeah, I do.
I guess because the receiver market has blown up. I feel like he's like the type of player you would want to have here for a young quarterback. So it's almost like run it back with Aaron. But guess what, Aaron? This first round pick may not go towards something that helps you right now. But then that same question goes in as to, do you want a young quarterback developing behind Aaron Rodgers? Or do you want to just kind of let Jordan Travis grow back there and have Tyrod? Or are you going to carry a 4th quarterback next year? Because we have Tyrod under contract. You have Travis under contract. Is there someone right now that you're kind of keeping an eye on at the top of the draft? I assume the Jets will probably pick somewhere in the early teens. I think we'll wind up winning some games.
So this draft class is really interesting. And this is, a really rough assessment because it's still early and I'm not fine-tuned on all the prospects. You know how I do it. But the quarterback classes, listen, I think I got 2 guys that will end up with first round grades and one that's going to be like right on the cusp, first, second. Shedeur Sanders is, he's got the makeup that you want, lacks a little bit.
I want no part of him because
you didn't let me finish.
Time as our goddamn head coach.
You didn't let me finish.
I said I don't want you to finish.
He's got the moxie. The guy's tough as nails. He doesn't have the arm talent. He's very sound. He throws with anticipation. Like he understands and dissects stuff pre and post read. Not the strongest arm, but enough arm. but you deal with all that other stuff. And frankly, I think that you're looking at a Manning situation with him. You know, he's going to direct. You know, his dad is going to direct where he wants him to play. You know, and then you got Cam Ward, who's having a phenomenal year at Miami. He's got more arm talent. I think he's a little bit more recluse with his decision making and his throws. Leads the nation right now in turnover worthy throws. So that kind of you have to have the right mentorship and guidance to kind of keep him in the straight and narrow. Those might be the only two quarterbacks that I'd be comfortable with handing over the keys to, thinking that these guys are going to be my franchise. There's another guy I really, really like, Jalen Milroe. More
Alabama, right?
Alabama, more along the lines of Jalen Hurts style quarterback, where he's still developing as a passer. Phenomenal arm, rocket arm, hits the deep ball good, but struggles to throw with anticipation, doesn't use the middle of the field, misses the easy throws, but is a true weapon with his legs. He's a guy who I think has the traits that could develop into one of the best quarterbacks in the league, like Jalen Hurts did. But it's going to take time. He's not a guy you want to hand the keys over to. He's a guy you want to have a quarterback or a bridge quarterback here for a couple years to kind of, guide him and let him develop.
Do you have maybe a roadmap of the direction you'd want to go with the first round pick? Like, let's say we're picking somewhere around 10. Is there a position, without necessarily going into prospects and who specifically could be there, is there like a weight that you put on a certain position on this team right now early in the first round?
Well, I think that quarterback's going to be in the discussion, even though, like I said, I don't know if it's the greatest quarterback class. Quarterback has to be in the discussion. I think defensive end is going to be in the discussion. You have to fix this defensive line, right?
You don't think JJ's part of that? Like JJ and McDonald don't do it for you?
No, absolutely. But I think, I think you kind of see a little bit of what, we don't know what JJ is going to be like coming back off that Achilles. That's an explosive, that's going to sap some of his explosiveness, which he didn't have tons of it to begin with. He played more head and physical and stuff like that. But, that's a big question mark. Will McDonald's been great. I still think Will McDonald's best suited in that, 50% Bryce Huff pass rush specialist role. So I'd like to get another defensive end there. I don't want to have Michael Clemens. I don't want to have Solly Thomas playing the outside. You hope that maybe like the Braden McGregors or Eric Watts can take, a step up. But again, they're probably nothing more than role players. So, I think a big time, defensive lineman, edge, or somebody in the middle where there's some good guys. It's funny, this draft class, when you talk about the top 10, a lot of positions that we don't even know if we don't know if we're going to need, right? There's, a couple cornerbacks, there's a couple, quarterbacks that people think could go up in there. A couple linemen who are, kind of like, are they guards? Are they tackles? So on and so forth. There's, some defensive ends and there's some interior guys. There's nothing really. It's not the strongest class from top to bottom overall. So to answer the question in a very, very long way, I'd probably say quarterback and defensive end are the two areas, if we're picking the top 10, that I would hone in on.
I would say O-line's the other one that I would kind of throw in there. I think the trenches are a big thing. We've lost, obviously our D-line is a shell of what it was. So I can get on board with that, whether it's an edge rusher or some sort of, hybrid type guy that can go inside, outside. I would love to see more of these young players throughout the course of this. Let's get Clemens out of there. Let's get Solomon Thomas out of there. Let's play some of these young guys, see where they stack up to just see how much of a priority there is. I really like the idea of trading down this year, I think.
Yeah. And we also got to remember, we don't know what kind of scheme they're going to run. They could completely flip the script and want to go a different style or a different type of defense. Maybe, bigger guys, more aggressive. So They want to go odd man front or something like that. So guys like Braden McGregor might not be fits for the new scheme. And, they new coaching staff, new GM doesn't have anything, vested in him. So guys like that could go. And guys like, I'll make it up, Andrew Van Ginkel, veteran guys who understand the scheme or play the new position can come in. So, yeah, man, it's a unique situation that we're venturing in.
We're going to get into your super chats in just a second. I do just want to do a quick little ad read here from our sponsor, MyBookie. In a year full of surprises, underdog wins, and all the so-called experts getting it wrong, MyBookie is the one book that got your back. No fluff, no second guessing, just straight up action with you in total control. Think you're going to roll the dice with the other guys? Good luck at MyBookie. It's never been about guessing. It's about giving you the edge, so every bet you place comes with confidence and a plan. If you know football and love to win, MyBookie was made for you. And if you're new to the game and not sure where to start, we've got you covered. Step up, use promo code TalkinJets, and that'll double your bankroll with a 100% bonus right from the jump. That's more money, more power to make winning plays. If you've been betting with us already, we've got something to share with you too. With MyBookie Plus, the new loyalty rewards program, you can now earn extra cash just for doing what you do. More plays, more wins, more cash in your account, no strings attached. Here's a pro tip that'll get you rolling. The NFL teams with powerhouse offensive lines are dominating the run game this year, and betting game total unders has been printing money. Stack that with MyBookie's risk-free Thursdays, and you've got endless ways to bet and win all season long, so why wait? Bet anything, anytime, from anywhere with MyBookie, the sports book that gives you control and rewards you for every moment of play. Dom.
Yes, sir.
Got a few comments.
Let's rock.
Sam coming in. Thank you for the super chat. Says, I cannot believe you reacted like that towards Shudor Sanders. Clearly, you do not know the kid. I don't want him or his dad around this team. Like, I'm sorry. It's a circus. It's like we are already a circus. I want the most like bag of milk possible guy you could possibly get, and like just boring. I want a boring quarterback that can run the ball, that can throw the ball. I don't want all the bells and whistles. Like I'm kind of over the glitz and the glam. Like I'd almost rather trade up from the second round into the back half of the first round to get a quarterback than go at the very top and have the wild high expectations that someone like Sanders would come. And like Dom mentioned, I think he's probably going to have his dad or him, whoever it is, push away from the Jets if we were to try and select him. I think he would try to go somewhere else because Primetime knows exactly
He's already said, Deion's on record saying his son will play in warm weather. He wants his son to play in warm weather.
Yeah. So scratch it off the list. I don't think it's happening. Would you want Sanders, Dom, if you could get him?
Listen, man, I like Sanders. I like him as a prospect. Do I think he's perfect? No, I don't think he's perfect. I don't think any of these quarterbacks are perfect. But like I said, there's no denying like he's a leader. The bright lights are not too bright for him. Like he plays best in the biggest, most high pressure situations. So in that essence, I wouldn't mind having him. I hear what you're saying. Bringing him in brings a lot of the undue necessary, noise that, us Jets fans want to get away from, and I think that's going to be, a big determination on where he lands. I'm not, no line, but yeah, could I see him as an understudy to Aaron Rodgers for a year before taking over the helm? Yes. I think he's got the skill set and enough of a ceiling to end up being a, listen, do I think he's going to be Pro Bowl caliber Patrick Mahomes? No, I can't say that, but I think he could be a viable face of the franchise type quarterback.
Jonathan Moore says, I just put $300 on the Jets to make the playoffs. John, I can tell by your $2 super chat you are 100% serious on the super chat. J-Mo was the guy that flew out from Colorado to do our group buy.
Nice.
And watch the Broncos play
In
New
the
York
rain.
in the fucking rain when he could have sat at home and watch the Broncos any other time. John, love having you in here. Sodak comes in with a super chat, says, I know his record, but I feel like JD has been a net positive with Woody's hiring record. Don't you guys think we have to at least entertain keeping JD? So that is kind of where I stand on this. I don't want to say I would prefer to keep JD, but I think the field is worse. Like, I'd rather Woody spend more of his money, keep Joe Douglas on a 3 or 4 year contract, and fire Joe Douglas after next year and eat the money if he has to. Like, I don't think that's like a realistic option, but I do think based on what I've seen from GMs that we've brought in, I think Joe Douglas is the best one we had, even with the issues that we've had most recently. It's just hard, like Matt has said, this is going to be 6-7 years now of no playoffs. How do you justify a contract extension for someone like that? And that's where I kind of spin my wheels.
Yeah, you can't, and you don't, unfortunately. Listen, it would have taken a sign from the heavens and really everything to turn right after they moved on from Saleh for them to keep Joe Douglas, and it just doesn't look like that's happening, man. It just doesn't look like that's happening. Listen, like you said, like the record is what the record is, but now you've given this guy 6 years. 6 years, and the best we've been is 7-10, right? He's the roster is better than it's been, but it's not necessarily equating. Like I said, I was having this discussion with somebody earlier, early on, yeah, some of his draft picks, blah, and some of his free agent moves, blah, so on and so forth. But he got that kind of fixed, and it seems like everything that he kind of focused on, something else happened. Like last year, the offensive line was terrible, right? Made a conscious effort this year to go after and fix that offensive line. You can't pay top dollar at every position, right? So what do? They trade JFM. They don't re-sign Huff. They kind of save some costs there and let some of these younger guys build and play. And then the JJ injury comes and it's all for naught. Now the defensive line is in shambles. So next year, what are you going to do? You're going to pay attention to the defensive line and what positional group gets, kind of gets screwed. Like that balancing act to me hasn't been great by Joe Douglas. And I think a lot of it is because he's not hitting on some of these draft picks. You know what I mean? You're not getting the starters that some of these teams are getting. Even if you pull a starter in the in the third and the fourth and the fifth round, or a vital depth piece. Joe Douglas hasn't been getting that. And that was a definite pass interference they just missed.
The backbreakers for us have absolutely been, in my opinion, from like the long-term, 5-6 year period that Douglas has been here, the Becton and the Zach picks hurt.
Well, the Zach pick is the scarlet letter, man. That's gonna, you can't. Most teams don't let GMs take a second bite of the apple at the quarterback position, right? You either get the draft pick or you figure out how to bridge it across until the next GM comes in and gets the chance at the draft pick. That's going to be the scarlet letter. Like, and it's true because we're in a completely different situation if Zach isn't an utter and total failure, right? Because none of this sideshow circus act that comes in the past couple years, with Aaron and everything that comes along with Aaron and the picks that you're moving and all the drama and all that stuff's put to rest, and you have money that can be allocated in different ways. Maybe we end up with the Jesse Bateses of the world. Maybe we end up with, Bryce Huff comes back and, this, that, and the thing, who knows, a different million ways. But, it all changes gears when you miss on the number 2 overall pick.
Phil comes in asking, clean house, can we get Ben Johnson? Who is the best GM available? I don't think there's any way the Jets are going to get Ben Johnson. He is easily going to be the hottest name on the market, even if the Jets were the top bidder for him and said, hey, we're not letting you leave this facility if you accept a head coaching interview with us. I don't think he's going to choose here. I think realistically we're looking at head coach number 4 at best. Like I'm thinking Dallas is going to become an option. Philly might, but they're kind of turning around, so Sirianni may still stay there. I think Jacksonville is going to be a pretty attractive option. I I don't know what other jobs you think are going to open up.
I think Dallas and Jacksonville for sure. The questionable ones, the ones that can go either way.
Maybe
Giants, the Giants, maybe Cleveland.
I would be in line to get Daboll if Daboll was.
Daboll would be first on my list if he was somehow let go. Stefanski would too, although I really don't see that happening. They just gave him an extension. He's a 2-time coach of the year. I don't see them moving on, but if they did, let me throw this at you, Ryan. All right. Say you're getting Aaron Rodgers coming back. Say you're keeping the party intact right here, right now. Would you trade a first-round pick for a coach? Would you trade your first-round pick to go get Kevin Stefanski and give him a 6-year contract? Making him a top 5 head-paid coach, and say, yeah, you're going to have Aaron, but you're also going to get your chance to kind of make your mark and build and develop when he's done.
Interesting. I guess what pick are we giving up? Are we giving up a top 10 pick?
Whatever,
middle round. Pick 15, pick 16, something
wherever we end up. Where do you think we end up? I mean, what do you think?
We're close to 10. I think it's going to be like between probably 9 and 14, realistically, somewhere in that wheelhouse. I think we're going to win some more
let's go
games.
right in the middle. Let's go 12. Between 9 and 14. Would you give up pick 12?
If we're running it back with Rodgers and the player that we're, realistically looking at is not someone we're looking to start right away, yeah, I'd consider it. I would.
That's not a draft day discussion, though. That's
no, it's early in advance. But you would have an idea of like what talent is coming out because you're picking your head coach, middle of January, beginning of February, something like that. So you'll still have an idea of like the players that will be there.
Now, listen, what did the Saints get for Sean Payton from Denver?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I want to say it was a second round.
I'm going to look it up.
I don't think they got a first rounder for him.
Compensation for Sean Payton. Saints compensation for Payton. They got a 2023 first round pick, number 29 overall, and a 2024 second.
So a first and a second to get him.
29 overall and a second. Yep.
So figure that is, let's call it the same price.
All right. So they got a 2023 first, a 24 second for Peyton, and a 24 third.
Okay. So I think we're pretty spot on. Like middle of the first round type value for an elite, head coach. I would consider it based on the talent that the Browns have had injured the last few years. I think Stefanski is up there with one of the best, coaching situations compared to like the chaos that's going on behind the scenes too with all the Deshaun Watson stuff. Yeah, I guess I would. If Rodgers coming back, if Rodgers isn't coming back, I'm probably less inclined to want to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. Me too.
Yeah,
me too. But because I think you have more options if Rodgers is not coming back.
I agree.
I really do. I don't think we're in Ben Johnson's wheelhouse. I don't even think that we're in. Oh my God, who's the other big name? The guy he was the Tennessee coach. Why can't I think of his name?
There's Slowick.
No, the Tennessee coach. He got fired last year.
I have no. Oh, you're talking about Vrabel.
Vrabel, yeah.
I don't think. I'm trying to go back to college. I was like, I don't know where Slowick was before this.
Yeah, no. Where the hell? Slowick was in San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't think we're in Vrabel territory. I don't think we're in Ben Johnson territory. You
don't think we'd be in Vrabel territory? I feel like Vrabel might be in the wheelhouse.
Nope.
Like give him GM and head coach responsibilities. He might do it.
I don't think so. Do you want that?
I'd be all right with it. I think there's a lot worse decisions we could do. I think Vrabel is one of the smarter head coaches that we've seen from a strategical standpoint. Like I think he's smart, if that makes sense. I don't know if I necessarily want him making.
But you want to give him you want to give him GM duties as well too.
Well, if it's that or like, was it David Caldwell? Was that the one that was down in Houston for a little bit? Who was the coach they had for 2 years? That was like a stopgap while the Watson money hit and everything went sideways.
David Tepper? What's his name? What's it?
That's not right. Tepper's the owner for the Panthers. I want to say it's like David Campbell. I could be wrong on that. Whatever.
It was a wide receiver coach. I don't remember what his name was, to be honest with you.
I don't prefer to go the route of like Adam Gase for 2 years. Like I don't want to do that again. And if it means giving Vrabel more control, and then at some point maybe needing to make a decision of like, hey, we're going to bring in a vice president of player personnel or something stupid like that, you know, in the future. I think I'd rather that decision because I feel like Vrabel at least is a good head coach.
Don't you think it would be more net positive if you went and you found the best GM you could, paid him top dollar, and then let him pick the coach?
I think if you went that route, into the same situation, though. I agree. Yes, I do.
I mean, I would do that. I would do that 1,000 times before giving a guy like Vrabel GM responsibilities as well. I would.
Would you give the fourth best GM candidate the job to find our head coach? Assume, like, I'm just saying, like, if we're not like the top landing spot, and I'm picking an arbitrary number. There's no logic behind this.
What are the other options? Right? Really? Right?
Well, I think that's it. It might be, you know, veteran coach and give him elevated responsibility to entice him to come here, where he may not have other options. It's going the unproven coordinator route, which I don't think we're getting a top one at, because if you're an unproven coordinator, why would you want to risk your future coaching career on the Jets? So you're talking, you know, a second tier kind of shot. I'd be open to like a Brian Flores too. I know I don't really want to go defensive minded head coach.
I would too. I think he's a guy I think he's going to be a guy that becomes a really good head coach the second way around, because he's going to learn a lot of the mistakes.
Well, he's been with a few different regimes now, and I think he's also someone that could be pissed off at the Patriots and more so Belichick, I guess, but could be pissed off at the Patriots and could be pissed off at the Dolphins for the way he left, and might have a little bit more.
But that would have to come with the right offensive coordinator hiring.
100%, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know how you pair those up unless he's taken someone. Is he Minnesota right now? That's where he's at, right?
Yeah.
Is there an offensive coach on Minnesota that has been learning under that head coach that we could pluck away, that you'd feel comfortable with?
Go look up who Minnesota's quarterback coach is.
Make me do work with a minute left. Just tell me. Let's see. Positional coaches. I'm assuming it's the head coach. It's O'Connell.
O'Connell's the head coach.
No, I know that. But is he also the quarterback coach? Because I don't see quarterback coach list here. Oh, quarterback. McCown.
Yeah.
Let's get McCown as offensive coordinator, and let's bring Sammy Boy back. Right the wrong. Woody's going to be upset. Nah, I don't know. I would love Sam back. Give me Sam back. There's a lot worse things we could do.
Excuse me.
McCown is offensive coordinator. Why not?
Yep.
Let's do it. Yankee Jet says, you guys keep forgetting that it doesn't matter who the GM or head coach is if we still have the same ownership that can't stay out of the way. I think it's going to be a major hurdle trying to get someone in here. I think you're going to have to go an unproven route or overpromise something.
We can't change that. He's not going to sell.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I think you got to go the unproven route. That's just going to take the lumps and forgetting the opportunity, or you overpromise someone else to give them something maybe they haven't quite earned. But McCown, I would take a swing at McCown. Why not? Flores and McCown come over, bring over Sammy Boy. Dude, you can talk me into it. I'm into it. I'm here. I've arrived. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. So. We're going to lose so many games. It's terrible.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. We've reached the end of our stream. Dom, any last words for our
no, man. I started to not produce. I have tons of them, but I've started to put out some of my scouting reports. There's a thread linked in my Twitter profile, which is at DC_NY Jets. I'm going to try to put one out every day or so just to get some of the big names. I mean, I'm not going to, I mean, I do a really, Ryan, I do a really intense, comprehensive kind of draft guide, but I won't be able to put out, 400 of these. But if I can get 30, 40, 50 of these scouting reports that go out to production, out to the public, so people can have them and look at them and familiarize themselves with them, by all means, why not let everyone see them? Do what you want with them. Read them, pass them along to your friends, share it on social media if you'd like, or, don't do anything with it. That's cool too. On top of that, after Halloween, start of November, the Project Prospect podcast will be back up and live on my channel, Project Prospect with 𝐃𝐨𝐦 on YouTube. Please like, follow, subscribe, and do all that good stuff.
Boys and girls, Dom's credentials and everything, links are down below in the description. Make sure you give him a follow. I have a feeling, just like tonight, this show that once started off as Talkin' Jets Draft is going to be making a pivot towards talking the draft. We got one last one here from Brian Anderson. Says, I know this is probably a touchy statement, but do you think Aaron Rodgers is a little envious of the success that Green Bay is having without him? Yeah, I'm sure he's burnt up. I'm sure he wanted to see Green Bay struggle after leaving, and to see them having success, and then now he's struggling with the Jets. It's got to be incredibly frustrating, which is partially why I think he's coming back next year, and Woody Johnson probably also saying he's coming back next year. I don't know. We'll see. Boys and girls, I'm going over to my channel. So if you want to do some call-in stuff, talk a little bit more about our Jets, commiserating bullshit, stuff like that.
Flores McCown, 2025.
I love it. I might have to make a shirt.
That's the next shirt. That's it.
I think Flores McCown and Sammy Boy coming back is my dream for the Jets at this particular moment in time, because it makes me at least smile. Yeah. Boys and girls, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you. This is Dom and Ryan talking Jets. We'll see you next week.